Hello there. Welcome back to my channel. It is Wednesday, September 25th. And if you're up to date on my vlogs, you know the last vlog I recorded on Monday, which means it is 2 days later, but it is a special day because today is our first house day.
Cool. A bouncy house.
I'm so excited. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, we utilize a house system here at my school, similar to Harry Potter, but if you want the full overview of what that means, go back and watch my behavior management video. I'll link it for you in the description box. But today I'm gonna chit chat with you about house day, what that looks like for us, how I'm organizing things. It's my first one, so do I know what I'm doing? Absolutely not. But I'm gonna take you along as I figure it out, and then at the end, we're gonna sit down and have a little bit of a vulnerable chat because yesterday was not the best day and I need to reflect on it and share some ideas of how to make it better moving forward. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So before I give you the rundown of house day, each house has a word as well as a color, a mascot, a cheer, all of the things that make them unique. And I shared at the beginning of the year when I got sorted into my house amongst all the staff members, because each house has staff members from across the school as well as students. So it's a mixture of grade levels. I am in the house that uses the color red. So I'm wearing my house shirt today. This was something I ordered from PTA, and it was just delivered to us yesterday afternoon. I did not get home until 7:30 last night, which means I did not wash it. Is it wrinkly as all get out? Yes. I pulled it out of my backpack and I went, oh boy, but it's fine. Not gonna worry about it. I also have my new red Converse that I purchased specifically for house days, as well as Wednesdays, because typically we wear our house colors on Wednesdays anyway. But these happen, house days that is, about once a month, I think. At least that's the gist that I'm getting. And it is a special day where we meet in our houses in a whole group setting where it's the entire house, as well as small group settings. It takes up a little bit less than 2 hours in the afternoon. As I mentioned, this is my first one, so I'll probably have more information to share after it's actually happened and not before when I've never done it yet. But the general idea is it's a way to bring students across the school together and create a sense of community outside of just your classroom and outside of your grade level. So because there are 6 houses, it ends up being about a grade level's worth of students, but as I mentioned, it's a mixture of grade levels. So in my house, there are 5th graders and 4th graders and 3rd graders, 2nd graders, 1st graders, kindergartners, and staff members. So today in the afternoon, when we break into our house day, which yes, means we've got a crazy schedule, we'll come back to that. We are going to actually start as a whole group for about 30 minutes, and we are going to be voting on house council members. So 4th and 5th graders can run for various positions. It's almost like a student government where there's like a president and maybe a, what do they call them? Like the people that record, not secretary, although I feel like maybe we called it secretary, not important. But those we call house council members, and house council members have submitted applications. They're gonna give speeches and then we will vote. We also are going to go over our house cheer or chant. We are going to welcome the new members to the house, which I guess I'm kind of included in that, but more so the students that entered into the house this year. So those would be all of the kindergartners as well as students who are new to the school and got sorted into their house. And I got told to be the MC or like the leader of the whole group. Although I did tell my assistant principal, I said, look, I've never done one of these. Can I see how it's done first? And then I'll totally MC in the future. So we'll see what happens. I don't know how much of a lead I'm gonna have today. I'm just gonna go with the flow. It'll be fine. But I guess I'm high energy enough that they wanted me to kind of take on that role, and I'm flattered and I'd love to do it. I just need to know what I'm doing first. So we'll see how that goes. But After the whole group meeting, where it's all of the members of that house in the whole school together, we will break into our small groups. That is at the grade level, but it's even smaller than just a class size. I will have about 12 students, so about half of a class. And that's when we get to come back to my classroom. It will be an assortment of fourth graders, so some of them I know, some of them I don't. And it's an opportunity for us just to bond and form connections and kind of have some fun. When I spoke with other staff members, a lot of them said that the small group portion is their favorite portion. So without further ado, let's go ahead and chit chat about how I am organizing that, because y'all know I made some slides. I'm a slides girly. So these are what my slides look like. Now, because this is my first house day, I had to create these from scratch. But the good news is my future self will thank me, because at the next house day, I will already have this set up and I can just go in and add in some new activities. And then once I'm done for the whole year, I can reuse this next year and just change out the names and things like that. So it took a little bit of time yesterday to put this together, but I'm happy that I did it. I used my Bright Slides template, but I made some modifications. For example, you will notice this rainbow color changing background. That is not included in the slide templates. The slide templates just have solid color backgrounds, but because they are editable, this is just a GIF or GIF that I saved from Google. I literally searched like rainbow color changing background GIF and saved it and inserted it in. So if you are interested in the slide templates, I will link them for you, because they are fully editable. You can take things like these black boxes that are included and use them to create a schedule. Now, this is not our actual schedule. I just made up a fake schedule to show you as an example. But our schedule is completely different today in order to accommodate having those small groups and whole groups in the afternoon. So we have a shortened special time. It's at a different time than usual. Recess is at a different time. My classes also have makerspace today, so it's gonna be chaotic, but I'm just embracing it. But this is the slide where I will communicate with my class what our schedule is, as well as our house locations and the order, whether they're doing small group first or whole group first. Because there are 6 houses, we kind of split them in half. 3 of the houses will be starting with whole group and then going to small groups. The other 3 houses will be flip-flopped, and there's about a 15-minute buffer time. Now, I took out the house names and locations. Obviously, this is just an example to show you, but these 2 houses will utilize the same location for whole group, as will these 2 houses and then these 2 houses. The next slide is how I'm communicating to my students where they need to go for small group. So each house has 2 different small groups within 4th grade. Most of them are led by a 4th grade teacher, but for example, I'm one of the leaders for red, but then there is another staff member in the building also leading a small group for red. So I have the location for each, as well as the students listed out from my class and where they need to go. Then I have listed out my small group as well as the other small group for the red house, because I don't want any students accidentally coming to my room. I want to make sure that they know where they're supposed to go, and I figured this was the easiest way to do that. Then we jump into the activities. Now, thankfully, my school, because they're phenomenal, they actually provided us with a list of different activity ideas. So some of these I got from that list. Some of them are just things that I have done with my students in the past. I wanted to start with a very kind of low-key introductory type activity of just a fun read aloud. That way students can come in, they can kind of get to know me and my personality, because I'm gonna have students in 4th grade that I don't really know. They're not my class, I haven't taught them. So I figured starting with the read aloud was a really kind of easy way to kickstart the small groups. So I'm gonna read The Legend of Rock, Paper, Scissors. Y'all, this is one of my favorite books. If you have never read it, you need to. I will link it for you. It's just so cute and funny. Kids love it. And this is the perfect transition into our first actual activity, which is a game called Coconuts. I do this as a morning meeting game with my class. It's essentially rock, paper, scissors, but a cooler version of it. Students will start out as a coconut. So they just kind of crouch down on the ground, almost like duck walk around. They have to find another coconut and they play rock, paper, scissors. The winner becomes a palm tree. So they stand up and they start kind of swaying their arms, almost like the palm fronds of a palm tree. If they lose, they stay a coconut and they have to repeat number 1. So they have to find another coconut and play against them, hoping to win so they can become a palm tree. Once they are a palm tree, they find another palm tree to play rock, paper, scissors against. And just like before, the winner evolves. They become a volcano. So I typically have them kind of hop up and down, and they make their arms almost like a spewing motion above their head, like lava coming out. And they have to play against another volcano. But if they lose as a palm tree, they go back to a coconut, and they have to find another coconut to play. Once 2 volcanoes play each other, whoever wins then goes back to their seat. They've kind of fully evolved, they are done. But if you're a volcano and you lose, you go back to a coconut. So it's a lot of fun, very easy for students to get the hang of. Next is index card towers. I figured coconuts was a way for them to start interacting with each other, but it's very low risk. They don't have to share information about themselves. It's just a fun way to kind of start getting to interact with one another. So then I want them to start forming those connections and find things that they have in common. This is an activity I shared about in my vlog because this is usually something I do with my class on the first week of school, but it's simple because all you need are index cards, but students are trying to build the tallest tower they can. I have them work usually in groups of like 3, maybe 4, but I feel like 3 is the magic number. They have to find something they all have in common. They write that similarity on the index card, and they then use those index cards to build a tower. If their tower falls over, they can rebuild it using the cards that they have, but they're gonna keep adding index cards until the timer ends. And then we're gonna play Ultimate Tic-Tac-Toe. This was a new one for me. This came from the list that my school provided. I'd never heard of this before, but it's like a bigger version of tic-tac-toe. Now this is a YouTube video that goes over the directions, so I will link this video for you. I just embedded it into the slide. But on the next slide, I have just an image of what the printout will look like. Their goal is to win 3 squares in a row. So that means like a big square. So like each of these has smaller squares inside of it. The basic way that you play is the first student places an X anywhere on the board. The O player has to play in the big square corresponding to the move of the X. So for example, if I were to put an X in this little square, because that is the top left corner of that small square, the person who is playing O has to play somewhere inside of the top left big square. Now, if they play in the bottom left corner of that square, my next move has to be in the bottom left corner of the big square. Hopefully that makes sense, but go and watch the video that I link. It's one of those things where it sounds confusing, and once you get the hang of it, it's a lot of fun. If a player is sent to a square that has already been filled, so all of the squares have been already filled up with X's and O's, they get to play anywhere on the board. So there's kind of some underlying strategy involved, but your goal is to get 3 in a row on the big board. So in order to win a small square, it's just like regular tic-tac-toe, but then you want to win 3 in a row on the big board. That is it for what we're doing. I think that should be more than enough to fill up the 45 minutes. So in terms of materials and prep, it was very simple. I already had the book, The Legend of Rock, Paper, Scissors at home, so I just brought that in. I have a stack of index cards for the index card towers. And then I have my printout copies of the Ultimate Tic-Tac-Toe. Now, I just made this as a template in Google Slides, so I will link it for you if you want to grab a copy. And then this is a folder underneath that was provided by my school. It has a list of the students in my small group. I have to take attendance. It also has a copy of the schedule. So that's all I need. It was very low prep. Taking the time to create the slides was the most time consuming, but now that that's done, it will be much easier for me in the future. Now, if you watched my vlog all about my teaching slides, which if you missed it, go back and watch it, I will link it for you. You will notice that I have this clickable button down here. It's literally just a square rectangle. But I like to add in these clickable buttons to my slides as easy links to other things that I might need, including Flippity. So Flippity is something I've shared about for years. I've been using this ever since I taught 2nd grade, but I most recently shared about it in my teaching hacks video. So again, go back and watch that if you missed it. It is essentially an easy way to form student groups or to randomly pick a student. There is a template that you add into your Google account, you type in your student names, and then it generates this spinner wheel. Let me make sure my sound is off. Okay, because it makes an annoying sound, which you can turn off, but it will randomly select a student. And yes, I used all office character names.
My name is Andy Bernard, Andrew Bernard, that's my name.
You can display single names, lineups, or create groups. So for example, when we go to do the index card towers, if I want groups of 3, I can click, and because I copied my roster for my small group of students, I can automatically create those groups very, very quickly. You can shuffle them as well. And then another little hack I wanted to show you is, let's say a student is absent. Now, you can click and move students around. So I can swap Michael and Roy, for example. But an easier way, if you go to More and then Quick Edit, you can delete a student. So let's say Kevin is absent. I can delete him from the list, click Apply, and it will generate essentially a temporary wheel. So the original link that I had will still take me to the wheel with my whole roster, but this actually opened up a new tab with a wheel without that student's name on it. So now I don't have to worry about them showing up within the groups. And I love that you have the option for basically as many teams as you need. You can also use this to create like seating charts and things. So super useful tool. I will link it for you, but I explain it a little bit more in that hacks video. So if you missed it, go back and watch that. Now, those slides that I created, I added into my bookmarks folder for easy access, which again, this is something I shared about in the hacks video, so go back and watch if you have no idea what I'm talking about. I also created alarms on my phone because our schedule is different today, and I already rely on alarms to know when to take my class to specials, when to pick them up, when to go to lunch. Everything's at a different time today, so I have a whole new set of alarms that are set to keep me on track. I mentioned we have Makerspace, which it's a room in the school. There's actually 2 rooms, one for the younger grades, one for the older grades. But every other week we go to Makerspace for half an hour, and it's an opportunity for students to manipulate different STEM tech type items. If you're not familiar with Makerspace, if you Google it, you can find tons of examples. But I've never done a Makerspace before, like I know of them, but it's always something I've kind of wanted to incorporate into my classroom, but never really had the space or the time. So I love that it's something that my school provides all of the students an opportunity to participate in. Our first Makerspace 2 weeks ago was essentially the students getting directions on all of the different stations. I'm excited for them to actually jump into it today. I'll let you know how it goes after school, but I need to finish getting myself ready, and then I'll let you know how house day was. I'm excited, I'm looking forward to it. But I also get nervous when something is new. I like to know what to expect. So I think after I've gotten one house day under my belt, I will be even more excited for the next one. Before I update you on the day, I want to take a second to highlight 3 good things, because that's ultimately how I stay positive. When you look for the good, you find more of it. So 3 good things in my life lately. Number 1, my sprouts are thriving. If you missed it in a prior vlog, I shared about how my September goal was to create an herb garden. Now, I have no growth from my parsley yet, but I'm still optimistic. My basil and my cilantro, I feel like, are thriving. It's amazing seeing their progress just from day to day, and I am now a proud plant mama, so woohoo. Number 2, our team lead for 4th grade texted us yesterday afternoon because we had all had a day and was like, hey, coffee's on me tomorrow. So she brought us coffee this morning, which was really, really nice. And it just kicked off my day on a good note. And then finally, number 3, I'm still completely caught up on my grading, which feels really good. Interim grades were due yesterday. And then I already have 5 parent-teacher conferences scheduled for Friday. I have 2 during my planning time and 3 after school. So it feels good to have grading out of the way. And I mentioned I'm still ahead in my planning, which is good because now my focus is shifting to other things. But we'll chat about that in another video. Let's talk about the day. I'm happy to report today was a much better day. Before we chat about the hot mess that was me as a teacher yesterday, let's reflect on house day. It was a lot of fun, and I feel like now that I've been through one and know what to expect, I can get even more into it for the next one. I need to get myself some more red things, like a red tutu to wear over my jeans and just some more fun, festive types of things. But overall, I really enjoyed it. When we got into our whole group, our students were seated kind of by grade level. So the youngest ones were up front, the oldest ones were in the back, and they had to do the voting for House Council. By the time that was done and we went over the cheer, that was basically it. And then I took my small group back to my class. It was a lot of fun because I only teach one of the students that's in my small group. The rest of them were all new to me. So I got to meet them, interact with them. I got to read aloud the book, and I haven't read aloud a book since the beginning of the school year. Since I teach math and science, I don't get the chance to read aloud very often. And even though I don't love teaching reading, I do love reading aloud to students. And so it was fun to like get into character and get to be animated with the read aloud. And then they really enjoyed all of the activities. And we did get to everything, which was great. So overall, House Day was a success. The day did fly by between having the off schedule and makerspace and trying to squeeze in a math lesson. But I'm feeling good. I'm feeling much better than yesterday. And part of that is because of me reflecting on how yesterday went. I made better choices today as a teacher, and therefore things went better. Huh, shocker. So here's what happened yesterday. In summary, I was not my best teacher self. And I think it was a culmination of a lot of different things, a lot of just kind of tension and stress and probably fatigue, all compiling into one. Essentially, this is another week of, I basically have no planning time because I'm in meetings like every day. And for example, yesterday, during my planning time, I had a meeting and it was a 5:04 meeting and it ran over. So then I wasn't able to pick up my classroom specials. And so they were waiting out in the hall, and like that kind of stressed me out. And then during lunchtime, we did a working lunch and had our team planning meeting, which usually happens on Thursdays. But on Thursday, our math teachers are being, that's me, hi, we're being observed for a PLC. And so we had to shift things around. So we had to meet as a team yesterday during lunch. And because I never had like a moment to myself, I didn't have planning time, I didn't have lunchtime, I felt like all day I was just kind of stressed out. Plus, I was tired, and we had some unexpected things happen where teachers were handling things, and as a result, I'm trying to manage 3 different classes. And my students have gotten into the habit lately of not raising their hands from their seats and either getting up to come talk to me or just interrupting. And I mentioned how I would say, Mrs. Emerson can't come to the student right now, but if the student takes their seat and raises their hand, she will be with them shortly. Well, that gets very tedious to say over and over and over again. So then it became shortened to, that's not how you get my attention. And I probably said that 25 times yesterday, at least. It just was a continuous thing. And I felt like I was getting more and more frustrated each time because a student would come to my back table without raising their hand. I'm in the middle of helping another student, and I would say, that's not how you get my attention. They would go back to their seat and another student would do it 2 seconds later. And I'm like, wait, why are we not like seeing what's happening and making better choices? But I got frustrated, and during dismissal time, I had to basically stop my class and be like, I need you to raise your hands. And I was firm on them, but I still don't feel like I delivered the message the way I wanted to, right, as the teacher. I didn't yell, I didn't raise my voice, I just didn't handle it the way I wanted to. And so last night I did some reflection, and I started thinking about how there are things that I can control and things that I can't control. And ultimately, I can't control when my meetings are. I can't control my students and their choices, but I am always in control of my own actions. I'm always in control of my own attitude, and I'm in control of certain circumstances that can make results better or worse, meaning I control how much sleep I get at night. And I know if I don't get a lot of sleep or I'm hangry, that I might be a little on the grumpy side.
I'm getting reports of a serious outbreak of the grumpies in here.
And then my reactions to things are not going to be the best version of what I know I'm capable of. And I always try to remind myself of the analogy to be a thermostat instead of a thermometer. And I've shared this before, but in case you're new and haven't heard it, a thermometer reacts to the environment around it. So the mercury level or whatever liquid is in there, I don't think they use real mercury anymore. Beside the point, it will raise or lower depending on the temperature of the area around it. Whereas a thermostat is in control of the temperature. So you choose to raise or lower the thermostat, and then it kind of controls everything around it. And I know from my own experience that on days when I'm stressed out, my students feed off of that energy, and I feel like it just makes things worse. And I'm not my best self, they're not their best selves, and it just kind of compiles from there. Whereas days when I'm really on it and I choose to be super present and I make good decisions and I really think through my actions and I'm proactive and I'm being the best version of myself, my students feed off of that. And I feel like then we have great days. And that's kind of what today was. I was very intentional coming into the day. I knew after yesterday that if I can only control myself, I need to make it right with my students. So I actually apologized to them during our For Emerson Family Forum, which is our morning meeting. I apologized and I said, look, I was not my best teacher self yesterday. Here's what I did and why I didn't like handling it that way. Here's what I want to do in the future. I want you to hold me accountable. And I told them, rather than me responding, if you're not raising your hand, I'm just gonna do this. That'll be our silent signal that I need you to go back to your seat and raise your hand. And then I did give them some tough love. I said, look, I'm apologizing. I was not my best self, but I also know you have not been your best selves as students, and here's what I need from you. And it was very much a heart-to-heart. They were very sweet about it. I also, in order to kind of provide an example for them, we talk a lot about restitution and making things right. And this morning I took 5 minutes. I'm not kidding, that's all it took. I wrote a personal sticky note for each student and said, you know, their name, I heart having you in my class, Mrs. Emerson, and I put it at their seat. It's one of those things, I love writing personal sticky notes to my students, but I don't feel like I have the time to do it. And this morning I said, nope, I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna write a sticky note to every student, and I had it done in 5 minutes. It really didn't take that long. But students all came in and they're like, oh, like what's this sticky note for? And I kind of explained, I said, look, I felt like the way I came across yesterday wasn't the teacher I wanted to be, and I wanna make sure you know how much I love having you in my class and how happy I am to be your teacher. And they were all very sweet. When I explained it, they're like, it's okay, you know, we understood. And it was a great moment for our class and our class community. And yes, I had to be vulnerable and apologize to them. And I think that's something teachers maybe don't do often enough. And I wrote about this in my book. My book came out last spring. If you haven't read it, it's called First Class Teaching, 10 Lessons You Don't Learn in College. You can get it on Amazon, also at Barnes & Noble, but I'll link it for you down in the description box. One of the first chapters is called Practice What You Teach, and it's all about setting the example for your students. And so often we have certain expectations for them, like paying attention, but then when we go to staff meetings, we're not always paying attention. And so making sure that we are holding ourselves accountable for the same expectations we place on our students. And ultimately, if I want my students to recognize when they make mistakes, I need to be a model for that. And I felt like that's what today was. And as a result, we had a much better day. I also am trying to be better at my consistency, because there are moments in math where I have students just shout out the answer because we're doing like quick fluency practice, but in reflection, I can see where that is then confusing to students. When do I want them to raise their hands? When do I not want them to raise their hands? So I'm trying to be better at clearly communicating, okay, I want you to call it out, and then giving the direction, versus, okay, I want you to raise your hand, and then asking the question, if that makes sense. That was a big ramble. I'm really sorry. But that's gonna be it for this vlog. We're gonna end on that note. I just wanted to share that moment because I feel like so far this year, yes, I've had moments when I'm stressed, and overall though, I've been very positive, and I still am positive. I'm still loving what I'm doing. I just wanna be open to say, hey, I didn't have a great day yesterday, and it's my fault. I was not my best teacher self, but I can use it as a moment of reflection to be better for the future. And hopefully that resonates with you, or if a moment like that comes up, then you can maybe try out what I did, apologize to them, set the precedent moving forward of what you're gonna do different, but also what you expect from them. And hopefully you have just as great of a day right after as I did. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Make sure you check out my Falling in Love with Teaching Again playlist. Leave a comment, let me know what else you wanna see. Do you want more just vlogs like this, or do you want more videos where I kind of walk you through things in more detail? Let me know. But as always, thank you for watching. I love you so much. Don't forget to put your positive pants on. I'll see you in the next one.